My friends, I need you to stop what you're doing right now and listen closely, because what I'm about to share with you could directly impact the money that hits your bank account this Friday. If you're receiving Social Security retirement, SSI, SSDI, or VA benefits, there's a major executive order being discussed in Washington that could affect your November payment, and I don't want you to be caught off guard. I know how hard you've worked your entire life. I know that Social Security check isn't just a number on a piece of paper. It's your groceries, your prescription medications, your utility bills, and sometimes it's the difference between sleeping peacefully at night or lying awake worried about making ends meet. You've paid into this system for decades, through every paycheck, every overtime shift, every year you showed up and did your job, and you deserve to know exactly what's happening with your benefits. Too many times, we seniors get left in the dark while politicians and bureaucrats make decisions that affect our daily lives. And by the time we find out about these changes, it's too late to prepare. But not today, my friends. Today, I'm sitting down with you like we are at your kitchen table with a cup of coffee between us. And I'm going to walk you through everything you need to know about this coming Friday and what this executive order could mean for your household budget. So grab a pen and paper, settle in, and let me be your guide through this important update. Now let me start by explaining what's actually happening here, because there's been a lot of confusion and a lot of rumors floating around, and I want to give you the straight facts. The executive order that's being finalized this week involves several key agencies: the Social Security Administration, the Department of Veterans Affairs, and the Treasury Department. And it's focused on streamlining benefit payments and addressing some technical issues that have been causing delays and problems for millions of Americans just like you. What does that mean in plain English? It means the government is trying to fix some of the machinery behind the scenes that gets your money from their computers into your bank account or onto your prepaid debit card. Over the past several months, there have been thousands of complaints from seniors who have experienced late payments, missing payments, incorrect amounts, and confusing letters from the SSI that nobody can understand. I've talked to people who've called the Social Security Administration 15, 20 times trying to get answers, sitting on hold for hours, only to get disconnected or told something different by every representative they speak with. This executive order is supposed to address those problems and create a more efficient system. But here's what you need to understand. Whenever the government changes how they process payments, there's always a transition period, and that transition period can sometimes cause temporary disruptions. Let me break down what this means for each type of benefit, starting with Social Security retirement. If you're receiving regular retirement benefits based on your work history, your standard payment schedule isn't changing. If you've been getting your money on the second, third, or fourth Wednesday of the month based on your birth date, that's still going to be your schedule. However, and this is important, the executive order includes provisions for what they're calling payment verification sweeps. What this means is that the Social Security Administration is going to be running automated checks on millions of accounts to make sure that everyone receiving benefits is still eligible, that the amounts are correct, and that there haven't been any unreported changes in circumstances that would affect your payment. Now, for most of you, this won't cause any problems at all. Your payment will process normally, and you'll see your money hit your account right on schedule. But for some people, especially those who've had recent changes in their lives, maybe you got married, maybe your spouse passed away, maybe you went back to work part-time, maybe you moved to a different state, there's a chance your payment could be flagged for manual review. If that happens, you might see a delay of a few days or even a couple of weeks while a real person at the Social Security Administration looks at your file and confirms everything is in order. Now let's talk about SSI, because this is where things get a little more complicated, and I want to make sure you understand exactly what's happening. Supplemental Security Income recipients are going to see some changes this month that go beyond the normal payment schedule. First of all, if you're on SSI, you know that your payments are supposed to come on the first of every month, unless the first falls on a weekend or holiday, in which case you get paid the last business day of the previous month. Well, because of this executive order and the system updates that are being implemented, some SSI recipients might experience what the government is calling a staggered release of their November payments. What does that mean? Instead of everyone getting their money at the exact same time on the exact same day, your payment might be released in waves throughout the day on Friday. So if you're used to seeing your money in your account at midnight or 6 in the morning, this month you might not see it until noon or 3 in the afternoon, or even later in the evening. The money is still coming, it's still the full amount you're owed, but the timing might be different. I'm telling you this because I don't want you to panic if you wake up Friday morning and check your bank account and the money isn't there yet. Give it until the end of the business day before you start making phone calls. because the system is just processing payments in a different order this time around. There's another piece of this executive order that affects SSI recipients, and this one is actually good news for some of you. The government is implementing what they're calling an emergency resource limit adjustment that temporarily raises the asset limits for SSI eligibility. Right now, as I'm sure many of you know, if you're single, you can't have more than $2,000 in countable resources, and if you're married, you can't have more than $3,000. These limits haven't been updated since 1989, which is absolutely ridiculous when you think about it. Well, this executive order is raising those limits on a temporary basis while Congress works on permanent legislation. Under this order, single individuals will be able to have up to $4,000 in countable resources, and married couples will be able to have up to $6,000. Now, I want to be very clear, this is temporary. It's set to last for 6 months while they work out the permanent details. But it means that some people who've been living in fear of losing their SSI benefits because they managed to save a little bit of money can breathe a little easier. It also means that some people who were previously denied SSI because they had slightly too much in assets might now be eligible. And if that's you, you need to contact Social Security right away and ask them to reconsider your application. Let me shift gears now and talk about Social Security disability insurance, because there are specific provisions in this executive order that affect SSDI recipients, especially those of you who are also trying to work part-time or do trial work periods. One of the biggest complaints the Social Security Administration has received over the years is that the system makes it almost impossible for people on disability to try to go back to work without risking their benefits. You want to see if you can handle a few hours a week, maybe test whether your condition has improved enough to do some kind of work, but you're terrified that if you earn even $1 too much, they're going to yank away your benefits and you'll be left with nothing. This executive order includes language that's supposed to make the trial work period rules more flexible and more forgiving. Starting this month, SSDI recipients will have an extended grace period during trial work attempts, meaning you can earn more money for a longer period of time before it affects your cash benefits. The specific numbers are still being finalized, but what we're hearing is that the substantial gainful activity threshold, that's the amount you can earn before they consider you to be no longer disabled, is going to be raised significantly, and the trial work period is going to be extended from 9 months to 12 months. This is huge for those of you who want to try to work but have been too scared to attempt it. Now, I need to talk about something that isn't as pleasant, but it's important that you understand it. This executive order also includes increased funding and authority for the Social Security Administration to go after overpayments and what they call improper payments. What does that mean? It means they're going to be more aggressive about clawing back money that they believe they paid to people by mistake. Maybe you got too much money for a few months because of a computer error, or maybe you didn't report some income you were supposed to report, or maybe there was a miscommunication about your living situation or marital status. Whatever the reason, if the Social Security Administration believes you were overpaid, they now have more tools and more resources to demand that money back. And here's the scary part. They can withhold your entire monthly benefit until the overpayment is recovered. I want you to listen to me very carefully on this point. If you receive any kind of notice from Social Security that says you were overpaid, do not ignore it. I know those letters are confusing. I know they're written in government speak that nobody can understand. But you cannot just throw that letter in a drawer and hope it goes away. You have the right to appeal, you have the right to request a waiver if the overpayment wasn't your fault, and you have the right to set up a payment plan so they don't take all your money at once. But you have to respond within the deadline they give you, which is usually 60 days from the date on the letter. Let me talk about our veterans now, because the VA benefits portion of this executive order is significant, and if you're receiving VA disability compensation or a VA pension, you need to know what's changing. The Department of Veterans Affairs is synchronizing their payment systems with Social Security systems in a way they never have before. What this means practically is that if you're receiving both VA benefits and Social Security benefits, the two agencies are now going to be sharing information automatically, and they're going to be checking for any offsets or adjustments that need to be made. For example, if you're receiving VA disability compensation and Social Security disability benefits, there's something called the VA offset that can reduce your VA check. Up until now, this offset hasn't been calculated or applied consistently, which has led to some veterans receiving too much money and then getting hit with huge overpayment demands later. Under this new executive order, the systems are going to talk to each other in real time, which should prevent future overpayments. but it might also mean that some of you see an immediate reduction in your November VA payment because the system is now correctly calculating the offset. I hate to be the bearer of that news, but I'd rather you know now and can prepare for it instead of being blindsided when you check your bank account on Friday. On the positive side for veterans, this executive order also includes an expedited review process for VA disability rating increases. If you filed a claim to have your disability rating increased, or if you filed for additional conditions to be service-connected, the processing time is supposed to be cut significantly. They're bringing in additional staff, they're using new technology to review medical records, and they're prioritizing claims from veterans over the age of 70. If you've been waiting months or even years for a decision on your claim, you might finally see some movement in the coming weeks. I'm also hearing that there's going to be an automatic review of all veterans currently rated at 90% to see if they should be bumped up to 100%, because there are thousands of veterans out there who clearly meet the criteria for total disability but have been stuck at 90% because they haven't known to file for an increase or haven't had help navigating the system. Let me give you some real numbers now, because I know that's what you really want to hear. For 2024, the average Social Security retirement benefit is about $1,907 per month. If you're receiving SSI, the maximum federal benefit is $914 per month for an individual. For SSDI, the average benefit is about $1,483. For veterans, the VA disability compensation rates range from $171 per month for a 10% rating all the way up to $3,837 per month for a 100% rating, and even more if you have dependents or special circumstances. These are the numbers we are working with, and when I talk about potential reductions or delays or increases, I want you to understand how even small changes can make a big difference in your monthly budget. A $50 reduction might not sound like much to a politician in Washington, but for many of you watching this, $50 is a tank of gas. It's a week's worth of groceries. It's a crucial prescription medication. So what should you actually do this Friday? First, check your bank account or your Direct Express card in the evening rather than first thing in the morning, because as I mentioned, payments might be processed in waves. Second, if your payment doesn't arrive by the end of the business day Friday, don't panic, but do call your bank to make sure there are no holds or issues on their end. Third, if you receive any kind of notice from Social Security or the VA in the coming weeks, read it carefully and respond if necessary. Fourth, if you see a reduction in your payment that you don't understand, call the agency right away and ask for an explanation. Get the name of the person you speak with, write down the date and time of your call, and ask them to send you something in writing explaining the reduction. Fifth, if you think you might be affected by the increased asset limits for SSI, or if you think you might qualify for a VA rating increase, don't wait for the government to contact you. Be proactive and reach out to them. Finally, talk to your family members about what's happening. Make sure someone you trust knows what benefits you receive and when you receive them, so if something goes wrong, you have someone who can help you navigate the system. My friends, I know this is a lot of information, and I know it can feel overwhelming, but I want you to remember something important. These benefits are yours. You earned them through your hard work, your military service, your contributions to this country. Don't let anyone make you feel like you're asking for a handout or like you should be grateful for whatever scraps they decide to give you. You have rights, you have protections under the law, and you have people like me who are committed to making sure you understand what's happening and how to protect yourself. This executive order coming Friday has the potential to help a lot of people, but it also has the potential to cause some confusion and disruption in the short term. By staying informed, by being proactive, and by knowing your rights, you can navigate these changes successfully. Check your accounts on Friday, read any notices you receive carefully, don't be afraid to ask questions and demand clear answers, and remember that you're not alone in this. Millions of seniors across this country are going through the same thing, and together we can make sure our voices are heard and our benefits are protected. Stay safe, stay informed, and I'll be back soon with more updates as we learn more about how this executive order is actually being implemented.